Yo, good morning, YouTube. What's good, family? This your man, AC Star, just giving you your morning report. Yo, it's a lot going on in the world today, man. It's a lot going on. The world is a crazy place. We have our domestic issues, but we're also starting to be engulfed with a lot of international issues, and these international issues are starting to hit home because, America is now a very diverse place, so we have a lot of different nationalities and ethnicities, and right now on the radar is Haiti and Cuba. These are our neighbors to the south and east, and what we know as the Caribbean, um, which is inhabited by a lot of Latinos and a lot of um, African immigrants or African slaves who created who's made up the demographics and the populations of both Cuba and Haiti. Peace, old breed. Good morning to you, my brother. Good morning to you. Thanks for stopping by, old breed. It's just a lot going on. It's just a lot to talk about. We had the assassination of the Haitian president last week. Full disclosure, my wife is Haitian. You know what I mean? My children are Haitian. You know what I mean? I have a lot of Haitian friends. I have a lot of Haitian customers in my business. So I'm familiar with the Haitian nationality in the nation of Haiti. I have a great mother-in-law that I love and care about a lot. She's really worried and concerned about our country. I have a lot of friends, that's Cuban. You know what I mean? That's worried about what's going on in their country. I think right now what we have is we just have a confluence of things. Me personally, I just think it's like, um, just think it's how civilizations play out, how worlds play out, how democracies and things of that nature play out. And now um we see two countries that has a, I'm gonna say, somewhat controversial past when it comes to things that go on with them. And it's time to realize, what I'm saying, what it is when it comes to um things like how nations fall apart, democracy in America, and our imperial ideas and things of that nature. Like we're dealing right now with a situation where, you know, two nations that don't really have a good history with dealing with America and dealing with its imperial ideas, and thinking that you know, you get down or lay down, right? And Cuba and Haiti's those countries. Good morning, Brandy Davis. Thanks for showing up. Cuba and Haiti are those kind of countries that really never got down or laid down, right? They kind of went their own way. We pay attention to history of Cuba. We see that when white imperialism and white, businessmen and Italian mobsters tried to come in and turn Cuba into a resort, they got a lot of pushback from the militant groups, Castro and his ilk, you know what I mean? So we know how that played out. They're now in a communist country, and everything that is made is for everyone, and I guess it's spread equally, supposedly, but we know how that's worked out. They've been kind of on the outside looking in. Obama was the only one that kind of opened up the world to them, but for the last 6 or 7 years in the Trump presidency, the beginning of what's the name's presidency, the beginning of Biden's presidency, the embargo has been lifted. So they're back to really getting bare bones necessities and resources. So now it's an uprising in the country. You see in Florida, you see Cuban citizens, Cuban nationals, marching and doing, highway blockades and things of that nature to kind of promote the idea or protest what's going on in Cuba and bring light to the situation. Me personally, I feel like this is one of those things where you want to have solidarity because there is a substantial amount of Africans and people of African descent on in the nation of Cuba. But at the same time, if you understand the political aspects and the racial aspects of Cuba, it's very complex. You have a lot of Cubans in South Florida, Miami especially, that's of white Latino descent, and they're not too fond of the black Cubans. So it's like kind of a thing of, you know, whose side do you choose? Because a lot of those Cubans in South Florida, they voted for Trump, right? Like, so now they're up in arms because their country is suffering tremendously. But the guy that they voted for was the one who put the embargo on. So now it's up to Biden to fix what their candidate did, right? And so don't be confused by all the people out in the street, because a lot of those people out in the street that's protesting what's going on in Cuba voted for Trump, not paying attention to the fact that Trump was the one who put the harsh embargoes on them after Obama tried to lessen the embargoes and have a more traditional relationship and more international friendly relationship with Cuba. So then step in Trump, you know him, hardliner, you know what I mean? And he was really doing it to harm the communists, but also harm the black populace of the state, because he's not geopolitically savvy. The people around him were just fucking do boys, so they didn't really, you know what I mean? They didn't really bring to his attention the seriousness or the diversity or the complexity of the situation. They just let him broad stroke it and do what he did to Cuba. Now you have Haiti on the other side, which in essence is a failed nation, has been a failed nation, but that's just based on their inability to get economic traction in the globe, right? And for me, I'm gonna just personally say this real quick because I'm not gonna be on here long. I think that we just have to pay attention to the Caribbean and really see it for what it is. This is just my personal opinion. If you look at the Caribbean, most of the islands and most of the countries in the Caribbean are tourist friendly, are Western friendly, are Western hemisphere friendly, besides Cuba and Haiti. So it's no coincidence that they both have upheavals at the same time, right? And it's basically a shortage of food, a shortage of power. And what happens, see in America, what happens in urban centers where chaos and anarchy and poverty and just lack of resources. When things like that happen in urban centers or communities in America, it's this thing called gentrification that happens, right? You have a economic group come in, you know, buy up the resources, buy up the properties, rehabilitate them, and then put them on the market at a larger margin. And then you have what we know as gentrification, because as the economic as the rents and everything in that area changes and the prices get higher, then you have to bring in a different group that can afford that and that has the capital to afford the rent and afford the amenities that encircle those communities once they've been gentrified. So in my personal opinion, I just feel as though Haiti and Cuba are being put in these tough conditions because they want them to turn into resorts. They want us to have the option. You know, I was looking at a picture of my friends that I grew up with, and they're in the Dominican Republic. It's about 10 of them, you know, and they out there chilling in the Dominican Republic. Then I got friends with the Puerto Rico, friends in Jamaica. So I got a lot of friends now that the nation is open, the world is opening up. A lot of friends that's traveling to the Caribbean, getting out there, getting their toes wet, getting some of that white sand, right? But the only two places you can't go to and really be at a resort and really kick it is Haiti and Cuba. And I think just those powers that be, those corporate powers that be, they want in. They want the same, because, you know, Dominican Republic and Haiti share the same island, the island of Hispaniola. Cuba is only 30, 40, 50, 60 miles from the tip of Florida. Right? Those Cubans in South Florida will love to be a part of the economic boom and the gentrification boom of tourism and resorts and all that would come with, you know what I mean, with the breaking up of communism and the breaking up of that staunch government that now rules Cuba. Same thing in Haiti, right? The French would love to get resorts and give their people an opportunity to come to a French island and be treated well, but they got to clean it up first. But they got to let it fall, because that's usually what happens when you wonder. If you look at the South Bronx, or you look at a lot of terrible neighborhoods that exist throughout the world that are now gentrified, certain areas in DC, Georgetown, certain places. When I was younger and growing up and we used to go to these places, they were fucking shitholes. Shitholes. You needed your gun. You needed to be ready. Now when you go there, you got white people walking down the street, Crown Heights, Georgia Ave, and DC. So it just was the thing where gentrification came in and, you know, changed the environment. And I think, me personally, I think that's what's happening in Haiti and in Cuba. I think that they're just, the time has come for the corporates, the powers that be that wanted to control these countries years ago. Things have changed. They're probably a little more powerful. They probably have a little more political influence, a little more corporate and economic influence. And I think the turn is to build these two nations and make them tourist traps, so that, you know, people from the Northeast and people from all around the world can enjoy them. Because both nations have prosperous people that have come from both nations. You know, they have people who, you know what I'm saying, who are, you know, making it successful. If you look at the situation in Haiti, you know, though that man, the person Sinai who promoted the idea of what they were doing was a doctor in Haiti. Well, a doctor in America, right? But he's of Haitian descent. Like the complexity of the people that's involved, that killed the president, the Colombians, Peace Allen Franklin, the Colombians, the you know what I mean, the I mean, think about it. They have informants, right? Like government informants that are of Haitian descent that work with our government to do what? Like, good morning, Bomb. How are you, beautiful? Right? So you have a situation where you have this narco relationship with the individuals that's, you know what I mean, intertwined in this complex, you know, geopolitical storm that we see in Haiti right now. But you look at Colombia, which is a narco producing country, one of the biggest narco producing countries. Then you look at the informants that work with those Colombian mercenaries, because that's what they were. They were Colombian armed forces, military or ex-military officers who came together to kill a president of a nation. And all of these guys have narco ties. And it's all dealing, you know, like, what sense does that make? Right? Like, it's just weird how all these people came together to execute this plan. And for America to say they don't have no hands in this would be blasphemous. Because if you have a rogue informant, or somebody that has a history of being an informant, a Haitian American that has a history of being an informant, I'm trying to figure out what's his connection. Did he get caught back in the day? Because to become an informant, you got to be under the gun. You just don't walk up to the feds and be like, hey, I want to become an informant. They got to have you by the balls. Because see, if you just become an independent informant, you can give them anything. You can give them bad information. You can say anything to them, right? But if they know they got dirt on you, then they control the leverage of the relationship. Peace, Shatira, how you doing, sis? Right? They can control the relationship. So now you have a situation where you have all these interchangeable parts that all have this narco background and have this elite armed forces background and training, and they went in there and executed a mission that they trained for. You think there people in the know didn't know that? Right? Exactly, Zadugu. For decades. It's a little different. Cuba's thing is the Latinos. Good morning, Danini. The Latinos that, you know what I mean, the white Latinos that ran the country and turned it into a communist country, right? They don't have no love for the black citizens, but they don't want the black citizens to rise up and create relationships with other countries. We know with Haiti, their whole thing is they were the first black country to tell white imperialists, y'all got to go. We ain't for this. They fought back. And in doing so, they've been in what we would call economic or global jail forever. They've been ostracized and pushed to the side because of their staunch rebellion of white imperialists trying to turn that country into what they wanted to turn it into. So now we have a situation where both of these nations are in amidst turmoil, and they're at our borders, right? And we already have a lot of immigrants from both countries that proliferate our country, from New York, from Boston, all the way down to Florida, and parts west, north, and south. And now you got our DHS secretary saying Haitian and Cuban immigrants don't come to our country. They're really talking to the black ones. No more black people. because just, and that's what it is. No more black people. But the craziest thing is that to undo two nations just so you can get your corporate hands and and turn them into resorts and islands, and you create all this upheaval and you create all this madness in people's lives, and you watch Haiti damn near spiral into anarchy, right? It's troubling. It's troubling, and the world is trying to set itself. It's trying to set itself on civilizations and what ethnicities and what countries are going to control how the rest of it go. It's kind of weird. It's kind of crazy. You know what I'm saying? But it's just something that we as Americans, as Black Americans, or as Americans, we got to pay attention to, because it's at our southern border and it will influence our domestic policy. We will see the difference between when Black countries or countries with a predominantly or majority African populace, how we deal with their immigrant status and how we deal with what's going on there in comparison to how we deal with South and Central American immigrants who come, and you don't really see DHS secretaries coming on TV telling them not to come, and you don't really see the Army or the Coast Guard or anybody else making speeches to say, hey, listen, don't come here, right? It's very sad. Maybe the earth is flat. I don't know who you is, but welcome to the show. It's very sad, and it's sad because most nations are powerless to do anything. Usually in situations like this, you'll have stronger South American and Central American governments coming in to kind of do the heavy lifting and kind of do the unilateral, well, not unilateral, but to kind of do a lateral, restart or reset, or provide security services, or provide, services, resources, food, blankets, things of that nature, security, right? But we seeing the change to right-wing populist leaders in Brazil, Venezuela, different countries. So the leaders that would be there for Haiti and support Haiti are no longer around. So we're dealing with a different populace. We're dealing with different leaders. So they're not going to get the same assistance that they would get if it was different leaders in power. It's really important to look at the political spectrum and see if leaders are on the right or left, because that will tell you how they would feel about going to do things and being supportive of of helping countries get themselves together, especially a poor country like Haiti, who really don't have a central government right now. They don't have a leader. It's a vacuum to fill the void, and people are going to suffer. Yes, it does. I mean, the whole idea of Creole and things of that nature, the language of Creole and the French and that whole connection and Napoleon, and yes, it plays a major part. It has a loosely, like those of us outside of New Orleans may not know the relationship like you guys do. You guys that's in New Orleans and understanding the culture and the Creole culture, and understanding that French mix in the culture, because that's really ingrained in you guys' history and cultural narrative when it comes to your relationship with the French, and comes to your relationship with Haiti. So you guys would definitely, it would be good to one day have a show and you guys just kind of give me a brief synopsis on what that relationship is like, right? Because my whole thing is I want to get back to talking about issues, global issues that's important to Black people. I don't care who you fucking, I don't care who you not fucking, I don't care about none of that. I care about geopolitics. That's my thing. That's my twist in Black culture. So yeah, man, just wanted to give a quick update, man, and talk about this. I haven't been able to talk about a lot of things. It's kind of strange to see we rarely see presidents assassinated on this part of in the Western Hemisphere. That's usually Africa, some parts of Asia, some parts of the Arab world, right? We rarely see that here. Now we see the upheaval of what's going on in Haiti. We see the things changing in Cuba, but we rarely see it. Like, think about that. Like, these guys went in and assassinated a president of a nation. Good morning, Miss Sandy. How you doing? Long time no see. Good morning. Thanks for joining me from the clouds. I really appreciate it. I hope all is well with you, beautiful lady. I hope all is well. Much respect to you. Much respect to you. So it's just kind of, interesting. We got some interesting times ahead of us. I'll get to our domestic politics tomorrow when I do my morning report. But right now, I just wanted to talk about, it's international, but it's in our shores, right? It's right at our southern border. And when you look at it from the oceanic point, you look at it from the Atlantic Ocean, not so much from the Mexican, landlocked border of South and Central America, but more or less the Caribbean border of the Atlantic Ocean. These small Caribbean nations that border us and have for centuries given us immigrants, given us citizens, given us contributors to not only Black culture but American culture overall. And to see them in such upheaval. But the one weird thing is, like, Cuba, if anybody's familiar with Cuba, it's not a country that does a lot of protesting because it's such a heavy-handed government. So to see them out there, and we all know that they was propped by some U.S. official behind the scenes, whether it's some right-wing guy or something. But we know instances like this is always propelled by the power, right? Like, shit ain't gonna be happening on somebody's block unless the big dog called for it. And this is America's block. So if somebody's wilding out on the block, we kind of know what's going on. We kind of got the inside, because I think that thing in Haiti was a botched mission, right? That America kind of knew but wasn't really involved in, but like, yeah, go ahead. If it go bad, you got to deal with the consequences, because that's what happens sometimes in geopolitical things. People go on rogue missions, and America can only give a wink and nod approval to it, and can't really come out and say, yeah, we want to kill the president of Haiti. I mean, 'cause that would be blasphemous. But it's a proxy situation, and the proxies failed miserably. That's why they use them. Sometimes that's what you got to do. You got to send the weak people in first and see what they do, and then that's how you know how to go forward. But they complete the mission as far as getting the president out of there. Now all the other vacuous stuff and the leadership vacuum and the holes and all that in the central government, security and all that, that's something that they're going to allow the international community to deal with. And hopefully there'll be some Caribbean and South American and Central partners that will step up and help them. I'm not sure who it's going to be, but they're hoping someone will. So, yo, man, that's all I have for today, y'all. I just want to give a little quick spill. Yeah. And not only that, Aries, not only did he not help him, well, he wasn't the president then, but what he did was, those people who were doing the hurricane, doing the not only the massive hurricane but the earthquake, they were given, citizenship. They were given green cards, and so all those people that was allowed to come to America and get themselves together after the terrible earthquake that they had, he rescinded all their green cards, all their citizenship to be here, and they all had to go back. So he definitely didn't have any love for the nation of Haiti. And I don't know if Biden has any love for the nation of Haiti, but I know he's not like really ready to invest any troops. We're trying to get out of the whole idea of nation building based on Afghanistan. And I don't think they're going to leave Afghanistan to go send troops into Haiti, because I don't know what Haiti's national resource is. But in Afghanistan, it was $4 trillion worth of unnamed minerals and things that they've been mining out. And I think they probably got most of it out, and the mining companies are there. So it was time to roll out, right? Because that whole Afghanistan thing is basically, resources. An empire going in to take some resources. No, I'm talking about not here. I'm none of us have seen a president killed, Zadigu, like, on our watch. Like, there has been attempts at assassinations of presidents, but I'm talking about in our lifetime. In my lifetime, we haven't really seen in Western Hemisphere a president assassinated in what we would know a private residence or, the White House, right? We know what Lincoln was. The Lincoln thing was about culture and civilization. I mean, they're all about culture and civilization. It's all about Haiti's thing is about the bourgeoisie wants to run the country. They want to run the nation, right? Where in Cuba, the poor, right? The poor, the military, right? The non-professional class wants to run the country. So it's basically about what group gets to run the nation and what group America will approve to run their nation. He wasn't killed, though. He got shot, but he survived. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't assassinated. He survived. He survived the assassination. I'm talking about actually being killed, being assassinated. Something we see in African countries, something we see in Arab countries, and some South American countries, you know, in the past. But we haven't in the Western Hemisphere seen a president assassinated. We haven't seen it. I mean, I get your rebuttals, I get your examples, but there's a difference between an attempted assassination and actually being assassinated. Well, yo, y'all, that's the end of my little morning update, man. I just wanted to come and kick it. I appreciate everybody coming through. My boy, Deagle One, who always bring that knowledge and information. Always a great brother to push back with and have, what's the name? Yeah, domestic terrorism did run up, but you know, that's always been, right? And we've never called it domestic terrorism. You know what I mean? We call it that now because we want to highlight that domestic terrorism is no less profound and no less detrimental than what they would call international terrorism. So that's a good point. That's a good point there. That's definitely a good point. So, yo, y'all, man, I appreciate everybody's contribution to the show. Everybody showing up. Old Breeds, Deagle, my homie Danini, my homie Bomb. Hope y'all can fix that eventually. I'm going to stay out of it. That's going to be my first and last foray into that. But both you ladies know I love and I like both of y'all a lot. Brandy Davis, thanks for showing up. Old Breed, thanks for showing up. Simplify, Alan Franklin. Just Sinai, thanks for showing up. Deagle, definitely thank you for showing up, bro. Yo, man, Aries, man, maybe the earth is flat. I like that name. I don't know if the earth is flat, but maybe it is. Yo, everybody, y'all have a good day, man. I'm about to go out here and get this money, man. This y'all man, AC Star. Peace.